My name is Kleemola, and I'm a researcher at Citizen Lab, which is an academic research group based out of the Monk School of Global Affairs at the University of Toronto. So the lab likes to study what we call the intersection of human rights and technology. And so one of our main interests is looking at targeted attacks against civil society organizations and activists. And so this started back in about 2009 when a member of the lab, Nart Villeneuve, who is now at FireEye, discovered what was dubbed GhostNet, which was one of the first documented major cyber espionage networks. And this was initially found through investigating claims of targeted attacks against Tibetan organizations. And so this is often referred to as APT, or an advanced persistent threat. And so in this case, these attacks are very, very highly targeted against civil society groups, and they pretty much face them in this kind of constant stream. And they're particularly vulnerable often because groups have low resources. For example, they don't often have dedicated IT staff to help them out and kind of take care of this. So one thing that we did do is last year we published, it was this giant research report over, it was a study of about 4 years and looked at attacks against 10 civil society groups. Sorry, that was at targetedthreats.net. And so I'm just going to go through a few different areas. So as I said, a lot of this started with attacks on the Tibetan diaspora. And this is kind of the area that people have known about the longest. This is, it's not very visible, sorry, but this is kind of typically what we see, is we'll see these emails being sent to people, and they kind of follow often the same format, where they'll say that they're from someone who is within the community, or someone who someone may know, at least pretending to be. And things that they might reference a real event. Often you'll see references to events like self-immolations, also around March 10th, the Tibetan Uprising, anniversary of the Tibetan Uprising. We'll just see these huge amount of emails coming in. And what they often have is an attachment and a plea to kind of open it, and these attachments will contain materials that have been repurposed from either mailing lists or news, or often if one person has been compromised, then we'll see their personal emails, for example, being used to try to infect others. And so often these attachments, historically, they've all been using Microsoft Word vulnerabilities. And despite the fact that people, again, when they say advanced persistent threat, people think advanced, it's more persistent. And so we'll typically see the same CVs being used over and over again, even after they've been patched. You don't really need this kind of sexy O-Day to actually compromise people if you just keep on going after them. So recently we did see a bit of a change, still using these kind of same tactics, having this attachment, pretending to be from a real group. But they started being a PowerPoint slide, just simply like this. And so this was the sandworm vulnerabilities that came out, and they're vulnerabilities in the OLE package manager. And essentially what you could do is you could load originally a remote install file and a GIF that was actually an executable. Originally these were being loaded from a SAMTA store, but later the vulnerabilities were embedded executables that were then copied over to the temp folder. So you didn't actually have to worry about firewall rules trying to stop the download of executables. The primary vector for this was, like I said, these PowerPoint presentations. Because you could save them as a PowerPoint show and not just a deck, and then they would automatically launch and the vulnerability would be triggered. And so this wasn't actually any sort of crash. It was just a logic error, which meant that you would kind of see this seamlessly happen, this sort of transition. And this is actually just, again, repurposed content from a major Tibetan organization. And so this was a little problematic too, because typically people would be told, hey, watch out for a program crashing. Watch out for if you see Word kind of flicker and then reopen with a different title for the document. And since this has been going on for so long within the Tibetan community, they had developed all these sort of training campaigns. For example, this major one was detach from attachments, with the idea that if you just didn't open attachments and didn't use attachments to send things, you could prevent a huge portion of the attacks. And so this was really trying to aim to get people to change their habits and change their behavior. But of course, as people change their behavior, the tactics of the attackers change as well. And so in this case, all of a sudden, it was open this Google Doc. And so kind of getting people taking advantage of the fact that they might implicitly trust this kind of cloud service, instead of taking into account that even if they download something from Google Drive, it can still be malicious. And so particularly in the Tibetan community, technology is this way that they can connect to people beyond borders, and all of a sudden then it's something that, as they say, it can be sending people to jail. And so right now I've been talking about attacks within the Tibetan community, but often we'll see these sort of different campaigns. And one thing we talk about is so-called threat actors. And so we try to look at how can we identify connections between different campaigns, whether they're in different regions or also amongst the same organizations. So one thing that people look at is malware families. But this might not always be the best indicator that there's this sort of common enemy, because source code for a rat may be publicly available or it may be being sold. However, typically in Asia, we see homegrown rats, while in different areas like Syria, we'll often see repurposed crimeware, or in other regions, we'll see commercial malware, such as Finfisher or Hacking Team being used. So one other thing that we look at is command and control infrastructure, which is kind of just this clear clue that there is the same threat actor, again, going after various groups. And so we also look at the contextual information of what is being used in this attack. Is it coming from what is obviously the same source, same sender? Is it using similar tactics? And so I just wanted to quickly actually go over one malware family that we do often see being used, and it's called PlugX. And so in this case, it's one of the more advanced rats that we see being used in Asia. And it's been used for a long time. It really came under popularity in 2012, particularly when Alien Vault, they reported that they actually identified the creator based on things, for example, like the PDB path having a certain username. And so it kind of disappeared for a little bit off the radar. And then later, the same malware family came back just with all the identifying information scrubbed, as well as getting rid of debug messages and things like this is a demo version. And so PlugX uses a tactic called DLL sideloading, which is pretty similar to DLL hijacking. And so you pretty much have a trio of components where you have a signed legitimate executable. And so this way, you do have the signed trusted executable that is running, and then it's just simply added as a service. But it will load a malicious DLL, and then the other thing it does is it has this encrypted binary file that contains the actual payload. And so then it is never actually written to disk or decrypted there, it's simply in memory. And so as analysis of this rat has been published, then we'll see things, for example, when it decrypts it in memory, it kind of strips out information from the header of the payload. In this case, thankfully, you can just plug in the MZ and the P and throw it into IDA, and it's fine. And so PlugX has these kind of typical features like a keylogger, taking screenshots, enumerating files. And it also has a lot of features like you can have tons of command and control servers with it. So if one is taking down, then you can always use another. It also often uses an alternate DNS. For example, just Google's is a good one. That way, if it is being used against an organization, what you can do is simply avoid detection through their DNS logs. And then it also has multiple options for communication protocols. And so often when we see DLL sideloading, the favorite target for this is using software from AV vendors. In this case, this was from F-Secure, and we actually saw this used not against the Tibetan diaspora, but also in Hong Kong. And so in this case, we kind of saw this neat overlap where back in the spring, we had actually the exact same payload being used against a Tibetan group, and that was with the repurposed slides I showed earlier, as well as to individuals in Hong Kong. And Anthony is going to give way more into attacks on Hong Kong after me. But so this is just an example of the slides that were kind of repurposed, and then in the email, it would be impersonating the assistant of the former member of the Legislative Council who gave this presentation. And so if you're not actually aware of these attacks being aimed at you, it can be really, really easy just to simply go, oh, okay, this is a legitimate thing to open. And so in this case, this is very clearly the exact same payload. This is the same threat actor. But we do see some commonalities against cross attacks. And so in that case, it's really debatable if this is how much sharing is going up across groups. Is it simply one very centralized threat actor? Is there sharing of tools, of tactics? And so while our focus is on NGOs, we've actually seen overlap between documented attacks against industry targets as well as government. And so one of these popular industry targets has actually been the energy sector. And so perhaps unsurprisingly because of that, we've now started to see attacks in Burma, which is quite new. And so again, this maybe isn't a surprise because there's just such a huge transformation going on there, and the country is very rich in natural resources. And then there's also heavy investment from China. And so a lot of NGOs are concerned over these development projects, both for the environmental and human rights impact. And so we started to see, again, sorry, these emails aren't very clear. But in this case, there's this email that was sent to an environmental group who is working on issues related to Burma. And it was, I had to redact it because it was actually pretending to be someone within the group, and was just referencing a news article about the special economic zone and Japanese firms applying to operate in it. And so in this case, it does have a link to a Google Drive document, which is, again, the same sort of tactic we saw being used against other groups to kind of get around education awareness plans that are education awareness campaigns that groups have been adapting. And so in this case, it was really kind of this weird roundabout thing where uploaded to Google Drive was actually a link file that was supposed to look like it was a JPEG. And then it had a script just to download some malware from a hosting provider. And so this, again, was the same family that we've seen in various attacks all over, PlugX, which perhaps is unsurprising. This time they were using McAfee executable. There's a cert for it there. And so this made us kind of wonder where the connections are with other campaigns, because one, we saw malware that was using a related C2 to the sample. It was also using a revoked certificate non-plug example, sorry, an evil grab one, using a revoked certificate against Tibetan organizations. And also at exactly the same time all this summer, we've started seeing this huge, large volume of attacks in Burma that are all sort of using the same malware families. And so started kind of making inquiries to friends and doing a little bit of research here. And the general reaction was, oh dear Lord, everyone is owned. And a lot of this comes from the fact that even, for example, the Myanmar government website was compromised. And so this started serving up malware. And what I thought was pretty interesting was one of the victims identified in their analysis was actually a globalized recognized organization in the oil and gas industry. Here it was again, there was just malware being hosted on the site. And some of that malware was actually, again, it was PlugX, but it was using the exact same benign executable that we saw being used against our groups. And so we've actually just kind of continued to see attacks related to Burma, not just with PlugX, but also with other similar malware families that we've seen against the Tibetan and Hong Kong organizations. And so considering all the events that are going on there, it's probably somewhere where we'll continue to see attacks, always related to current events and to media going on there. So we just actually recently put out a blog post today giving more details about the Burma campaigns. And we also have several blog posts too, specifically about the Tibetan-Hong Kong connection. And so that's all available there. And I guess Anthony is now going to speak more in depth about Hong Kong.
Actually, I expect Katie will occupy 30 minutes, no worries. Because my stuff, I will show more case study, no worries. Let me introduce myself. Other than my biography shown on the web, I focus on, for my hobbyist time, I like to help those Democrats, pro-Democrats, to analyze those samples, because no one could willing to be a volunteer to do this kind of work, I mean analysis work. And also then most of like labor association, like NGOs, human rights associations, they reach us for analysis. So this is our volunteer. And also for me, then I focus on doing my part-time PhD in my federal school, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, to do some machine learning, attacker profiling, attribution. And for earning a bread, I mean, daytime, it's very interesting is I'm now working in a Beijing company as a Longsac to do some web monitoring and also the anti-DDoS solutions. So that's why I'm on stage, right? I got a little bit pressure from my CEO, but I don't care, because I'm represent VXRL today. All right. And okay, let's go ahead, right? Oh, I need to accommodate for 5 seconds for this teeny cute machine right now. A disclaimer, no national secrets, all right? I don't care there's any spy here. The spy everywhere, no problem, okay? And, okay, case study about APT against Hong Kong, observation against people in the political movement and against the voting website. Then this is my observation. If you expect any debugging screen, I want to press F7, F8, F9, then you could go out from the room, all right? Because you could do it from YouTube to learn about what is debugging, all right? And also Katie has already done a lot of technical part on those products and explain the malware and the payload behind. Observation. Actually, for us, then VXRL analyzed about 40 samples and incidents for the past 18 months. And including, actually our business scope is very good. And first of all, including NGOs, Democrats, university, even very teeny charity companies. They ask us to, hey, are you going to fix our computers? Oh, sorry, we just analyzed the attack only, all right? Or web defacement. But we analyzed the real target attack for this organization. Who are they? I mean, who is the attacker? We don't know who is behind, but we know that they really have a very good holiday scheme as us. When they are on Saturday, on the Sunday, we didn't receive any attack. And it's a coincidence if they're hitting some China holidays, for example, the national days in the 1st of October, or even some golden week of the shopping, we didn't receive any attack for past 3 years, all right? So I don't know who is behind, but I know they need holidays, all right, to have a family life as well. And actually for us, we just know they use the Chinese characters, and we didn't capture any last mile of the traffic like Fred Collette's this kind of superpower agency to know every part of the China of PLA. We can't do it, just hobbyists, Okay, so that's why we can't do it like that. And also we are not kind of as Indian, like we could guess this kind of funny string when we could know this is from the first bureau and second department and third division, wherever, blah, blah, blah. Then. So please refer to APT1 report and Frankie Lee's the report about APT1, the comment. So that's why we can't justify who is the behind, all right? If you ask me who is behind, I can't tell you. And where are they? Most of them put the C2 and VPS server in Hong Kong and the second and third line of the internet service provider. This is quite fun. And actually today that we got law enforcement guys from Hong Kong, but he's not working in that division. But anyway, when we report, many years, we report to the Hong Kong police and Hong Kong CERT. They simply, okay, we got a case, okay, then we take down the C2. What is the meaning of take down? Simply just unplug the machine. That's it, finished, case closed. And are you going to analyze the C2? Oh no, I'm sorry, then this is not our assets. How about the police? Then we report the police. Police say, oh, the IP is in Hong Kong, but when you go to the place, then the server is not there. This is out of our boundary. It's in mainland China. The case also closed. So we are alone. So that's why they asked us to do the analysis. And some, even though the charity, the Democrats and us to report the police and say, are you losing any money? No, you're losing any money, so we can't accept the case. So great, I want you to do that. Okay, what is their favorite payload? They like the remote administration toolkit a lot, the web a lot. Java West, Poison Ivy, China May 1. So if there's an operator in this room, I suggest you read about this 201 for the top 10 web administration tools for your next payload, all right? Because you're the low payload favorite. They like many payload, okay? Don't use Poison Ivy, it's too boring, all right? Just simply refer some top one. It's better, more commercial one, much, much better, all right? If there is operator is here. And also I observed a single server. For target attack, I found it and referenced other reports, not in Hong Kong. They don't use the single server for different purpose. I could show you something. For example, then when they used it for the C2 against like legislative councillor, after a few months, they use it for phishing, for phishing other advertisement or phishing sites. It looks like very fun is they do it like a business. When they accept the order and they do the target attack, okay, the project is closed, money is collected, that's finished, and they got another business, is doing phishing, spamming, they use the same server. Compare with the C2. If you are the attacker, will you really have a dedicated target? Will you use the same server for different purpose? You tend to put the server as a stealthy, right? So I found that their role, I should think they don't from government, all right? So definitely we would not be so stupid, Chinese government is very smart, so that's the reason though, don't think it's from Chinese government. It's from the stupid business agency to do like that. They put the same server to do different purpose and let people to know they're doing different work, all right? It's easy to disclose the C2 or VPS. Okay, we got some screen, no worries, don't feel asleep here. Okay, this is my, our grading, like CTF games. Different attack and classified in different levels. Okay, level 0, web defacement and phishing sites, right? They simply just make a phishing site, attack different websites, because the problem is a lot of NGOs, a lot of democratic parties, they didn't afford people to do their professional design, enterprise management on the IT, then they simply just use PHP, buy the book, PHP at the disk, and install MySQL, PHP, okay, that's it, finish, and put it on the content management system. Okay, runs well then, but didn't do any patching. And also the percentage is represented how many cases I received to analyze with this kind of attack, all right? Level 1, putting an executable and hidden frame link in the compromised sites, compromised site. It's common for that because most of the sites is vulnerable. They don't deface it. They simply put a link, executable to infest, to spread out the payload through those supporters or people we visit the website. Okay. Level 2, send a phishing emails from Google Mail, Gmail and also Dropbox. Hey, you have got some documents to download it. You got some argument interview. We got a form for you to fill in, and say, hey, there's some secret source of the document. You need to download from the Dropbox, from the Google Mail, and also spoof some Google Gmail administrator, ask you to reset the password. They use different techniques. But very fun is they use simplified Chinese. Hey, it's Hong Kong, it's traditional Chinese language. If you do a more professional operator, please use traditional Chinese sometimes. So that's the reason they use this kind of phishing emails, but we find a lot. Because for the users Google, Yahoo, Google and Dropbox, it's very hard to detect where they are, where they come from. But I got some tricks to know where they come from. Level 3, sending malicious attachment with exploit. I suppose it's the same as Katie, with the cases covered in different political events, political attack, target attack as well, and poison ivy and Java wet, and VNC, something like that. Level 4, sending more advanced, customized, exploit, and some encryption. They like XOR a lot, okay? Sometimes one time I found my samples, this XOR is 0x0x8964 is the key, all right? But I didn't find out the sample before last week because already 2 years ago. But they like use the XOR and for those customized encryption. But for that, and also Hong Kong, I just found 1 to 2 samples, but in Taiwan, a lot of customized encryption for the payload, and it's hard to detect by the antivirus software. And level 5 is to make a malicious mobile application. I will explain this in details for espionage purpose. I got a real case study. And level 6 is about DDoS attack against a site for important political events. This is about working websites. I'm involved in draft already finished case study with a professor from information system in Hong Kong University of Science Technology, and also with 2 co-authors. One of the co-authors is our RxRL group members, Cosetta. This is how I classify. Incoming 10 minutes, actually incoming, okay, 20 minutes. I will illustrate, in level 5 and 6 so that you can know more about techniques and revolution, about the commitment, But, last year we got some kind of umbrella movement. So yesterday some friends asked me to be careful about umbrella movement. But anyway, then, if you go to Beijing or China, don't carry any yellow umbrella, yellow things, or even stickers, all right? Otherwise, you will be checked by them and say, hey, are you involved in this kind of movement? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm serious then. So that's why then the collect samples I collect in this period of time. Case study 1, the fake mobile application. And actually, there's an organization, no profit making hobbyist guys, is doing such kind of, helping people, teaching people how to coding and promote programming in Hong Kong. But very strange is that one day they got a SMS message sent to different audience and say, hey, hey, please download this application, and it could helpful to coordinate the Occupy Central. That means the umbrella movement. And also friendly to work with different code for HK values and method for analysis as well. Here's the screen. When we got this number, this message, it said, hey, check out this Android app designed by Code4HK for the coordination of Occupy Central. Okay, short link. And when you receive it in your Android phone, sometimes then maybe you just click over it, all right? But it is very fun. It's not received at midnight. It's received at the afternoon time, night time at 8:15. The idea is when during the evening time from 6 to 10, more Hong Kongers will gather at Admiralty or different occupying areas for a meeting, for kinds of gathering, for discussion. And every night, not just one time, 3 nights, we also, by this time of period of time, they send out this kind of message. When more people grouped in the occupation areas, they send out this message. It's not sent by midnight you are sleeping, morning time, early morning time, no. 3 nights. I didn't mention here, but in my slide, but this is how they do it. Very target for us then. They are very considerate. After we off from work to the Occupy Central areas, then send out this kind of message for us to have a free application. Okay, what's inside for the application? First of all, there's a screen here, and actually they got XML files, .qq XML files, but the interest is they will produce the temp.apk files, attempt to try to sleeve and auto message from the QQ, all right? But right now in Hong Kong, there's no one use QQ, use WeChat. So that's the point is, it looks like they just reuse the old code, all right? And capturing outgoing call, this is quite fun. It's good. And from the receiver, this configuration files, we find that they hook the outgoing call and record them to this data.com.v1 with an AMR as a file extension. And here, this is the code, okay? And put it here. Is it right? Correct. Yep. For this is output recording part for recording the output, the outgoing call for that and capturing. And save it here in the temp directory. Append the path, the com.v1, and put the recording under this folder. And in Hong Kong, before the target attack, we rarely got this kind of fake application. Okay, the third is very interesting is using Baidu as a geolocation and try to figure out what is your geographic location. But if the operator do more decent research, should we say, hey, Hong Kong is using Google, not Baidu now. Hong Kong is still Hong Kong. So they didn't do a good research here. They used the Baidu, right? So they leak their identity, their nationality. So that's the point I used Baidu to mention about the client location. Other findings. This IP is still working, so it's still alive. But I didn't report to any police and Hong Kong cert because I want the C2 still alive. Yeah, it's more fun. Then this IP address is hard-coded in the stream surface as well. And this one I would talk about in details about this IP address. It's suspected to be the C2 server, but sometimes comes in, sometimes live, sometimes not alive, right? Then both could be accessed to the remote desktop by last year. And also then when you look at the com.google.xweb.protocol stuff, you could simply grab the history, context DB, SMS history, and files on phone. Actually, we got the whole application decompiled and put under Matthew, his account. It's open to public. If you are interested, I will send you the link, all right? You study the deletion, the fake application. This nice then. They like to put some RDP there. So I try to crack the password. But every time I see this, I will try to crack it. But it's very difficult, There's special string. So I just see it, that's all then. It's a very friendly screen, Okay, how about, is there any finished? No. The part is about, the before part are just about the application itself. For me, I observed the one of the IP address I mentioned, this one. All right, 101, this one, 101.55. Okay? And when I check back, this is back to the 2014, 17 September. Okay? This is a code for hk.vicp.cc to the IP address is resolved with this, domain resolved with that IP address I mentioned. And you could see what you do observe is still changing all the time. After the inactive for a year or 6 months, and when the 2014 in the middle of February, they use this IP again, okay, to resolve to different CN domains. And also some blah, 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 .click. And I show you from that. This is the screen from passive totals, Franco to Brandon and Stephen. This is .click.cn in this year, in July and August. And how about recently? Just 1 to 2 days ago, you could see the result to the CN. And also there are some phishing sites like Baidu.com, KTVOF.cn in the early October. Then I would like to deduce they didn't use the same IP address or they manipulate the same IP address for just single purpose of the target tag. Sometimes they need to earn business to accept different assignment and operation or mission to other work. Because right now the legislative counselor is on holidays. So when they are holidays, they also need to get more business when some target tag is off. So need to do some general one, okay? So that's my observation. Their life is very tough, doing this kind of operator. Okay, for this IP address, then always in the right now the IP address is in Korea, and also you could find here also from Passive Total. There's a mention about there's samples. The samples here, then you could see there's an EXE under this IP address before, back to the June of the 2015, the June this year. As I mentioned if you remember, record about the slide about level 0 to level 6, then it looks like they are willing to using the same trick to back to the level 1 to put the executable under the compromised website or payload for people to download it through the hidden link or some hidden iframe. So you could find it in the analysis, but when you download it, this is very easy one. And simply you'll find the hook set Windows hook method. It's like a key logging as well. And sending back to the same server to different ports. They're quite lazy and budget is very limited. They just open different ports to receive and send back the payload. So that's why we need to show sympathy to them, right? Okay, this is the case study 1. But how about case study 2? And I think if you're not living in Hong Kong or pay a lot of attention to Hong Kong case, this is really, really impressive one because this is not about malicious attachment. This is about distributed denial of service attack. The attack is not just last for 1 to 2 days. It's not about money. Okay, so that's the reason then I would let you know more details in this. And for me, the RxRL participates as one of the party to do the penetration test for this voting website, and also to give the comment about incident response. One of our RxRL fellows sit in the board, and he is responsible for filtering the attack traffic in U domain, which is the Hong Kong internet service providers. Okay, so it's also one of the company to undertake the protection or anti-DDoS protection as well. For this, for about the background, you could go to this public slide for that. But as I said, I work with the 3 co-authors to do the case study. The case study is already have a draft and confirmed by the Hong Kong University. And right now is we will send to the maybe Harvard Business Review, because I don't think right now in the university we've got a formal official case study about this kind of large scale of the attack. Okay. Okay, let us go through this timeline. I'm not going through the what is DDoS, right? For the headers, date, attack event, outcome, and POP is the POPWOX, is the voting website, the voting website owner or their organizer, their response. All right, it's from June, 14th of June. From 14th of June, actually the DDoS attack against the Cloudflare, the provider. They provide the DNS service. The Cloudflare add more service for the rate limit, for the domain, for the popwook.hk. All right, it looks like normal, right? Normal defense. And then also the popwook organizer, they also add Amazon Route 15.3, and also another DNS service provider for more better space, resources to defend the DDoS attack. 15 and 16, when the attacker found, well, it looks like you have a very strong defense, they try to already initiate 100 billion DNS requests sent to the Amazon. This is not sometimes you could check back to the Google digital attack map if they are not expired. You could check out this kind of historical records from the Google digital attack map. And Amazon say, hey, no, buddy, stop it. You're really making a joke to me. We just charge you a very small charge of money, but you give us 100 billion DNS requests, so we drop off, okay? And also the CDN service. And uDomain is another famous Hong Kong ISP and also under attack, and with the peak traffic at 10 gigabit per second, okay? uDomain is good because he could wash and filter all the traffic, but he have no more room resources to serve their existing clients, including Yahoo, Hong Kong. So also they drop. We also can't take part in the party. So the only agent want to protect the popwook is the Cloudflare only from Apple Prince. But very limited surface. But you know what? The charge is they just only charge about $200 only, even you got such kind of huge volume. How about 17th? Okay, the attackers, they are very committed. Keep going, initiate the DNS NTP reflected DDoS attack, but the peak traffic is about 150 gigabit per second. You know this kind of traffic is about, in Hong Kong, is the 1/3 of a night of the traffic about watching the World Cup, all right? But all the time, these 3 days, we suffer this kind of volume of the attack. And what's the outcome? No outcome. It looks like, and for me, I still remember, we are very frustrated. We're just being hit, but punched, but no other methods. Our last resort is report the police, but the police say, hey, are you losing any money? No, we are sorry, but the attack, where is it? China Telecom. We need time for investigation. Okay. That you have, right? But the organizer is very, very, very smart this time. Okay, we announced to extend the voting period of time. And even if you attack a website, we got paper ballots. That means you simply just queuing up to insert the paper, all right? And also then Cloudflare project, we got Cloudflare project as well. They add get 4 dedicated name servers for Cloudflare to increase the defense, all right, by the 19th. The story doesn't end yet. The attacker found that, wow, we still can't get down the popwook website. And the popwook organizers extend the voting period of time. They do the last resort on Chanty, like a final battle. 300 gigabit per second DDoS attack taking place before the booting, because the booting doesn't launch yet officially. Layer 3 DNS reflection, NTP reflection attack. Layer 4 attacks including 100 million sync attack per second. Layer 7 DNS flooding with 128 gigabit per second DNS request. Also, there's one attack we didn't mention. It's about SSL, the Cipher Suite renegotiation attack. It's a new attack found by Cloudflare, by Matthew Prince, posted in the Twitter, and they try to do a lot of renegotiation for the Cipher Suite. It's a new vulnerability. So that's the reason they mastered the advanced attack. And also they initiate a large amounts of random and non-existent subdomains requests. You know, operator is a business agency. They need to get the money. Okay, they maybe receive the deposit, 30%, but how about the 70% for the money? So they need to show some work, performance, you know, it's appraisal. This is like an appraisal, right? To see whether to bring it down. But for how outcome? The Cloudflare mitigation is to transfer the song files to some DNS service providers and use any cost to absorb some bandwidth consumption attack and hardcode DNS, whitelist some hardcode DNS response, and whitelist the existing subdomains at Google public DNS for the defense. And also, the POC also organize an updated Android application to minimize the dependence on the cloud hosting and monitor the system around the clock, all right? And at the same time, in the morning time, but in the parallel, on the same day, the operator thought, it's not effective for the attack. We need to get back the money, the deposit, the more money. They tried to bring down the root server for .hk. In the Chinese University of Hong Kong, once you've brought down, no one could access .hk, even including gov.hk, com.hk, organization, education, edu.hk. No one could access to it. But they fail, of course, because in the CHK, they simply just block all of them. But you see how committed they are, all right? How crazy they are. They want to break it down. There's no money value website, no credit card information, just maybe no banking statement. And 23rd, they have no more DDoS attack. Suddenly stop. And I have checked the 21st and 22nd. It's not Saturday and Sunday, okay? But they stop. And maybe they think a while how to really get back the remaining money for their project. They have no more ideas. So they send out some fake emails to the SMS surface to request SMS usage report, and even send out make some phishing website like pokewooks or pokewooks_s. But of course, this is easy to detect and brought down by Hong Kong domain, the registrant, okay? But for this case, what do you learn? I think it's much more important, more serious than the one about those malicious attachment for my handled incident before. Because this 14 days attack of this volume, okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kitty. Yeah, for this kind of attack, the server is already deployed there. The infrastructure is already deployed there. And also some attack is from China IP and also from Hong Kong. And also those server traffic, no one tried to stop about this kind of request. So that's why I ask questions to you guys. Can you handle this kind of attack in your hometown? it's not about for my handling some commercial case of the DDoS attack. For example, some silver and gold trading companies, they will send out, hey, I want to attack you. They're very honest, actually. Chinese hackers are very honest. They phone you, hey, I'm going to attack you. I'm going to ask you to pay me for 6,000 RMB. Okay, I give you 3 days. This is my number. This is my QQ contact. The customer service is very good. And hey, please ask your boss to call me. Okay? And okay, if you don't pay, then we attack. Those commercial ones, they're very honest, right? But they told me that, oh, we are now attacking you, your silver and gold trading companies. But once we attack you, we need to get more resources, get more zombies to attack you. We can't undertake other business. So better to settle, you just pay us 4,000, so we stop. There's a negotiation room for commercial attack. But here, the poop worked. No one called us. No one left the email. No one phoned us, hey, there's a QQ for you. No, we can't ask them to stop. We can't pay the money to settle the things, never. But the structure, the infrastructure, the service is here, is there already. So that's the point is, can you imagine this kind of company or agency who is the behind, who have this kind of resources to launch this kind of attack for 14 days? If your country or some sensitive infrastructure or critical infrastructure are under attack, can you defend like that or this kind of drill? This is very, it's quite scary. Remember, this server, these machines, this system, just a voting website only. It's a voting website for the Hong Kong people to vote for the next, to vote for their preference for what is the best proposal to elect the next chief executive only. There's nothing doing with you're voting for anyone, but voting for the best proposal for the next chief executive. That's the reason then. And there's no credit card information, no Hong Kong identity card information, no address, no privacy information, because all of them will be stored in the database and encrypted, so they can't do it for any benefits for that. So this is the this is the insights I want you guys to know about it. Okay. This is my end of my case study. Any questions? I'm thankful to Citizen Lab, Masashi-san, and also Katie, and also work with me together to deliver this kind of a target attack. Hopefully you enjoy it, because hopefully then you'll also Katie also talk about different political parties are suffer different attack projects. At the same time, for me, then I deliver some kind of case study in Hong Kong, how the different attack and types, then different dimension or perspective for you guys for reference, instead of just we mentioned or just malicious attachment. All right. So any questions for us? Nope. But I suppose I need to promote Citizen Lab as well. In the Citizen Lab, there's the website that got a lot of broad message. I learned a lot from there, and the report they publish very regularly. Then that's very nicely written and got a lot of technical details. It's very nice then. All right. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.